Do you recall, as you sit there, approximately how many bones of Tylee's were included in the remains that were sent to you to evaluate?
I don't remember exactly. I think in this case, more than 100 bones were submitted, but some of these bones were so broken and thermally damaged that I wasn't able to conclude that they were definitively human in origin.
Can you explain to the jury why is it that some bones would have been more thermally damaged than others?
When a body is burned, there tends to be a pattern that's typical of which areas are damaged first. And basically, it's just areas that have less soft tissue and other covering, protecting the remains tend to be burned first. So, for example, the top of the head, the fronts of the knees, the elbows, these areas have very little soft tissue protection. So, if exposed to fire, they will burn first. Areas of the body that tend to burn last are those that are better protected by other muscle and tissues. For example, the thorax, including the pelvic region.
And in item 16, if I'm correct, that is primarily documentation of sharp trauma, correct?
Yes.
So this, I think you've indicated there's some thermal damage in this bone.
Yes, I believe there was some thermal alteration to the top part of the hip bone.
If there's a fire pit and the fire pit has concrete, like it has concrete around it, it's not like just a flat on the ground build your fire. There's a little, it's a round ring, not huge, but I mean like a foot high.
Item 19, trauma number 1.
Yeah, as you've got noted, are those annotations that you made on the photograph, 1 through 6?
So I took these photographs and then I annotated it with these labeled numbers just to be able to clarify where the traumas were and to keep them consistent across photographs.
And what kind of trauma is number 1?
Number 1 is sharp trauma. It's a bit difficult to see with the glare, but it's there at the end of the arrow.
And you indicated that number 2 is not seen in these photos. Is that right?
That's correct.
And what is number 3? What type of trauma?
Numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all sharp traumas.
Does this photo also depict any thermal damage?
Yes, I think it's a bit difficult to see in this picture, but the anominates had some discoloration consistent with exposure to fire or heat on the top of the hip bone.
And I don't recall if you said or if I asked, but which particular bone is this in the body?
This is the right anominate or hip bone.
Like her 2 arms, which were each cut, the elbow and the shoulder. Oh, and then the 2 pieces of 1 leg. They're literally showing me of them putting this leg on this thing, like a rotisserie type thing, an outdoor thing that you would cook over an open fire like you might roast a pig on, I swear to God, and eating it. And they don't even care. It's like they're insane or something. Like, and it makes me wonder, like, why am I seeing this? Like, would my worst imagination make this up? Like, feel free to discount it, and it could make my entire thing seem like nonsense. But you know what? I have to say it. They showed me again.
For the record, I've now put up 181G. Can you please tell the jury what you were trying to document in that photo?
In this exhibit, the top photo is, one of the sharp traumas depicted in the previous pictures, sharp trauma number 6. And this one also documents that hinging or bending of the bone that lets me know that the bone was at a biomechanically fresh state.
Now I'm placing 181H on the screen. Let's start with what's the FBI item number on this exhibit?
This was designated item 17.
What is item 17?
Item 17 consists of the sacrum, or it's the bottom of the spine between the 2 hip bones in the back, as well as 4 of the lumbar vertebrae. And these remain attached by some of the remaining soft tissue and ligaments.
And when remains are received, is it common for tissue to still be remaining on bones?
I wouldn't say common, but it happens sometimes in anthropology cases, yes.
So when in those instances, whether there is tissue, what's the process to either remove it or leave it on? Can you kind of explain that some more, please?
It depends on the nature of the examination and how much tissue is remaining. In this case, I didn't remove that remaining soft tissue because I felt I could see all of the portions of the bone that I wanted to see from my examination.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Which trauma did you identify as number one?
There was only one on the sacrum, which is here.
And what was the nature of that trauma?
This is a sharp trauma.
Is there anything else this photo documents?
No.
All right, Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
You mentioned that you published an article or a book with Dr. Bartling. You mentioned the postmortem carnivore marks.
Yes.
Can you tell me where those marks, when those marks were put on the body?
Typically, carnivore scavenging is a postmortem activity.
Okay. And when you say carnivore, we're not limited to wild or domestic, are we? We don't know what kind of animal may have done this, correct?
No, carnivore refers to a meat-eating mammal, and there are a wide variety of them that would scavenge human remains.
They're literally showing me of them putting this leg on this thing, like a rotisserie type thing, an outdoor thing that you would cook over an open fire like you might roast a pig on, I swear to God, and eating it. And they don't even care. And it's like they're insane or something.
And we don't know exactly where the remains were at the time these carnivore marks were placed upon the skeletal remains. Is that right?
No, I do not.
Can you describe to me, just in general, the, if any, parts of the skeletal that were not discovered as part of this examination?
Well, in terms of the discovery, I can't say. I can only speak to what evidence was submitted to me at my laboratory. But there were a number of parts of the skeleton that were missing or absent. Most of those, consistent with the burn pattern that we talked about earlier, where portions of the body are more susceptible to burning and fracture.
But you can say that those skeletal remains are missing as a result of the burning. They could be missing for a variety of reasons, correct?
I don't know why they're missing. That's correct.
Okay. What you do know is that at least portions of the bones had burn marks on them, correct?
That's correct.
And again, there were also portions of the body where there were no burn marks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And when you talk about the trauma that was inflicted on the body, you don't know when that was done, correct?
I can tell that it occurred when the bone was in a biomechanically fresh state, but precisely when that happened relative to the death event, no, I cannot.
Okay. Judge, I have nothing else. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pryor. Any redirect, Mr. Wixom?
Very briefly, Judge.
Very well.
Ma'am, in your testimony with me a few moments ago, you referenced that there was a number of remains and bone fragments that have been sent to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were there among those many bones some that had been severely damaged thermally?
Yes, there were a number of bones and bone fragments that were so thermally damaged or thermally altered that I was not able to tell whether they were human or not in origin or which part of the human body they might have come from.
And in fact, were there bones that you could tell were human in origin that had been more severely thermally damaged than what we've shown the jury?
Yes, there were other parts of the skeleton that were identifiable as human that weren't pictured here today.
Do you recall, as you sit there, what were some of those other bones?
I don't recall. If I might be able to review my case notes, I could tell you, but there were parts of the body that were more thermally altered. More thermally altered.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no more questions.
All right. That'll conclude the examination then of this witness.